As someone who scours the internet looking for any form of RWBY content I could find, I was blessed to find a movie in the midst of the disaster, and that was Justice League X RWBY Part 2. Now before anyone comes out of nowhere and starts attacking the movie, I gotta defend it. This movie is decent. Sure, it has its flaws, but, and here's a huge but, there's some good here. So let's do this exactly how we did Part 1. Hello guys, my name is Solarts. Welcome back to a brand new video. And I'm here to discuss the RWBYx Justice League movie, the final part of it. There are timestamps below for your viewing pleasure. With that being said, let's begin. The movie starts off with RWBY giving a summary of the previous movie. Then we move on to the Justice League. We get to see them aged up and in their appropriate attire. Superman actually looks like Superman. His design is pretty nice and it's actually hard to fuck him up, so we're good here. He doesn't look bad, but it's nothing impressive if I'm being honest. I like Part 1 more because it feels more like RWBY, but I like this because it feels more like DC. As everyone exits out of their pods, we get to see Wonder Woman, Cyborg, and Vixen. Wonder Woman actually feels like a downgrade. I don't know if it's the lipstick or how strong her face looks, but it just feels like a downgrade. Her clothes are good, but I just don't like it. Cyborg is himself again. He looks pretty good. I wouldn't say he's amazing or anything, but he's back. I think Vixen actually looks pretty fucking good as well. I thought Part 1 she also looked good, and thus also just feels like an upgrade. Vixen just looks dope. They nailed her in both. I'm surprised and impressed. Next it pans and shows Flash, Batman, and Green Lantern. Flash actually looks pretty cool. He's a little bit better than Superman due to the line art and also because of the basicness of Superman's design. Batman is the biggest upgrade here because he looked fucking terrible in Part 1. Actually dog shit. He's still like not anything amazing if I'm being honest, but he's leagues better than what the fuck we got previously. Lastly, Jessica, she looks solid in both movies. I kinda have the Superman syndrome with her, I'm not gonna lie. I like her more in Part 1 because it just feels more like RWBY, but Part 2, she also is nailed in this design, so it works and I like her here. Either way, she's still a top tier design. Overall, the Justice League members look better than previously. Only downgrade would probably be Wonder Woman. Everyone else had a small downgrade or a huge upgrade. We also get to see Black Canary, and I like her design. Sure, it's basic, but Black Canary is also pretty basic in design. Black Canary alerts the Justice League that creatures are attacking the city. The Justice League recognize the creature as Grimm before finally moving to the city to fight them. While in the city, we see this small little girl. I think that's a girl, I'm actually not sure. But we see this character and we can already tell they're using that budget. The girl looks pretty fucking terrified here and it looks pretty good. You can actually feel the intensity and the emotion. We see Killer Croc come out of nowhere and save the girl, telling them to run. As they end up doing a 50-mile dash, another Grimm blocks the way before Killer Croc rescues again. But as Killer Croc tries to help, he begins to get choked out and Batman saves the day. We then see Team RWBY and Vacuo facing Grimm themselves, and we can also see they hired some elite animators. This one move just shows you all we need to know. Oh, but you're glazing. Nah, hear me out. This is the same move she did on the Curious Cat, and they pulled it off at the beginning of the movie and it looks smooth and not misplaced at all. This has a different feel to it. This feels like some passion was put into it. Anyways, we get RWBY actually using the recoil from her weapon and Yang being worried for her sister. Although the fighting is slower and may not be as stylish as Monty, this shit is good. This is enjoyable. This looks good. This isn't bad by any means. Part 1 had me snoozing. This isn't even the first 10 minutes and I'm locked in. They did well. After RWBY manages to kill the 2 Grimm, we see Yang mad. Is it because Yang gets mad at everyone that isn't Blake? Who knows? We'll see later. Next we go back to Batman fighting Grimm and he is actually looking like himself. They didn't have a trash ass stunt double. This is actually my GOAT Bruce Wayne. They even had a little scene that was hard to hate on. Shit looked fire. It had me in my seat not knowing what to say. We also see more Grimm decapitation, and here's a thing to point out. The Grimm deaths look fucking beautiful. They look good. They look nice. I don't know how to state it, but it looks good. This type of Grimm death and destruction just looks good instead of just like instantly fading away in particle pieces. This just looks good. Cyborg pulls up and tries to trap the Grimm, but it turns out his shot was blocked by Anthony Davis. Why did I write that in the script? But the Grimm manages to break out of his bubble and then begins to speak. It's obvious, but Batman pieces together that the Grimm are still being controlled by Kilgore in their world as well. Also, yeah, I know someone's going to say it, but does the power scaling make sense from this point on? No, not really. Power scaling isn't the greatest thing in this movie. The Justice League shouldn't be struggling with Grimm, and Team RWBY shouldn't be able to help them due to how weak they are. Remember, Team RWBY is about a city level threat. The Justice League are like universe level threats or something, you know, fucking, I just don't know. Like, even if they like weren't necessarily, they are far beyond city level, like scaling wise, they just fucking are. You can say that this movie is dog shit because of that reason, but if you like push away that detail, this movie is actually pretty fine, but power scaling as it's a 2. Anyways, Cyborg lands a hit on the Grimm, and look at this fucking animation. I have no clue who was animating this, like I'm not gonna lie, but this is leagues better than what we got for part 1. If we could get this for like RWBY Volume 10 just constantly and not just at the finale, I'd actually probably drop to a knee, like no cap. But anyways, as Cyborg and Vixen distract the Grimm, Batman tries to be a part of the Sneak Nation, but he gets put on fraud watch pretty much immediately. And yeah, motherfucker gets poisoned. You were doing so good. Like, he was actually doing pretty good. You looked cold. You actually seemed like Bruce, but no, you got poisoned by a Grimm. And apparently the Grimm just went through his suit. Like what the fuck does that suit have? Like Kevlar? Like, what the fuck does that? Like, that suit has like some of the most hardest shit ever, and the Grimm went through it and got to his skin. Like, I don't get it. And like the poison practically one-tapped Batman. You would expect Batman to like be able to go through toxins and stuff. I don't know if he has, but you would expect it, so I don't know. Next we see Team RWBY, and she is eager to do more missions before Yang turns into her former self for just a slight moment and tells RWBY to stop. Yang is actually concerned about RWBY taking on too much, something she also did in Volume 2 to Blake. After, we see Weiss leave the room and she remembers the fall of Atlas. Next we see Kilgore talking to someone else, showing us he has formed an alliance with someone from the world of RWBY due to what was said during the last movie. Yay. Back at the Hall of Justice, Flash looks like he pulled a Monty Ohm, just no sleep at all. He's trying to contact Team RWBY, just help fix the panic and maybe just do something. And you know, Cyborg is also just in the room and warns everyone that Batman got poisoned, and he's like, we need Superman because Batman's poisoned. You know, it's like, damn bro, get your mans. After some planning, everyone is given assignments: beat Grimm ass, find a cure, and call Team RWBY. That's literally the plans. Cutting back to Team RWBY, Weiss calls Klein and they don't speak about Atlas. Weiss also tells Klein that she doesn't want to think about her father, about how he abandoned the kingdom. Klein also states that people don't like the Schnees due to jocks. Weiss also tells Weiss to take time away if she needs it, and tells her that she's more than jocks and Atlas. I enjoy the dynamic between Weiss and Klein. I actually do. I actually think it's pretty well handled in this movie as well. I will, however, critique the writing decision here. I don't think it's bad. Even the execution, it's actually not. However, I think that making Weiss not care about her father's demise and even taking time away from her family isn't a good thing. She is literally leaving her mother, who is an alcoholic, alone with her 17-year-old brother who is still attempting to change. This is also right after the fall of Atlas and the hatred of the Sneeze name, and it just seems weird to not meet with her family, especially after her father's death. A lot of people say Weiss shouldn't care about her father because he slapped her. That's not accurate. If I compare Weiss to Neo, then we can get a range at how to compare these two characters and how they should react to their family or father dying. Neo hated her father. She despised everything about him, and even when she was one of the reasons her father died, or just her parents in general, it was stated that she felt empty. She wasn't happy, sad, she just felt nothing. That's something major. That's even defined by her hair gaining white streaks because it was so traumatic for her. She literally gained white hair because of this shit. And like, Neo's father abused her more than like jocks abused like Weiss. So like, even the level of mistreatment is just, you know, different. And like, Neo is the person that caused their death. Like, she's the person that caused it. Weiss didn't cause her father's death, and Neo still felt something, like I said, enough for a physical change. Weiss is just ready to move on. And a big difference I think we should take here is Neo had Roman to just embark on her criminal life. You know, Weiss has an entire family waiting for her. Her family waiting for her, and she's just like, I'm gonna abandon them because Team RWBY is my family now. It's like, in my opinion, I just think that's, I just don't like that. I just think that's dumb. Anyways, Justice League calls Weiss. Jessica asks about John. Sadly, he isn't there. But don't worry, this movie manages without that dynamic. However, it would have been cool to see it, especially with a much older John, like a Volume 9 John. Would have probably been cool. But yeah. After being informed by the Justice League, Team RWBY are attempting to make it to their world. Also, something interesting is that time moves differently in Remnant than it does on Earth. Yang said they haven't seen the Justice League in weeks, but the Justice League said it took 3 days. So yeah. Interesting to think about. After a pretty dope looking fight scene, yeah, this fight scene is good. I'm not gonna lie about it. Like I said previously, most of the fight scenes are good. I'm not gonna glaze it and say something like it's the best fight scene in RWBY history. It's not. It's not one of those, but it's good. Like it's good. It's a step in the right direction. It's what you would want. But yeah, after the fight, the portal opens up for them and they go through it, and we get some crazy I'm keeping that in. We get some crazy designs, so let's get into it. RWBY looks fucking amazing. They said this is how RWBY would probably look older, so I'm gonna just say this is RWBY at like 23 or 25, just give her like the Neo age. But yeah, RWBY looks amazing. I literally have no complaints. I love the hair. It feels like her. It also just feels like summer, but it makes her look mature. Her outfit looks good as well. A lot of black and red, and the sleeves are gray, similar to her Slayer outfit. I honestly love it. It's a top tier design. Next, we see Blake Foley, and she is fucking hideous. I don't even know how we downgraded from what we had previously, but we fucking did. This design is actually fucking atrocious. They even tried to do the thing where she has no ears, and yeah, she's not a faunus, but overall, this design is just fucking ass. Her long hair feels better, the mask is ass, not to mention her outfit is just, it's just buns, bruh. It's just actually buns. Like, they honestly missed here, like, very badly. It's actually just atrocious what they constantly do with Blake. Next, we see Yang, and she looks alright. I'm not gonna say this is a top tier design. It's good. It's not bad by any means, but it doesn't blow me away. This is just standard Yang. Yang is always good across the board. It's hard to mess her up. Finally, we see Weiss, and she looks fucking beautiful. This is another S tier design. They went 3 out of 4 with the RWBY designs this movie. This shit is actually really fucking good. I actually have no issues with her just at all. She is wearing mostly white with some gradients, and she looks beautiful. Her hair is finally down as well, so you love to see it, and it's just hard to complain. It just looks really fucking well. Also, they don't have aura or semblances anymore, meaning if they get shot in the heart, they won't survive, you know, due to this armor. A headshot is literally just a headshot. That's death right there. Anyways, while they're in the hallway, they get another call of a Grimm attack and rush to see what is up. While in the city, we get a small cameo of Joker and Harley enjoying the chaos, and I thought this was a cool scene. Blake, Cyborg, and Jessica go find traces of the Grimm that poisoned Batman. Meanwhile, Black, Canary, and Vixen are fighting Grimm, and like I said previously, the Grimm deaths and injuries look good in this movie. Yang and Wonder Woman appear to help Black Canary and Vixen before finally fighting. Yang also has a strap. It's nothing crazy, just a flamethrower. It's pretty in my opinion. I'd much rather have Yang stick to something like very close range, like a shotgun, which is what her weapons are designed off. But you know, it's whatever, I guess it's fine. Moving over to Superman and RWBY, they are inside an airship. RWBY takes a few steps back before showing that she can dunk from the fucking free. What the fuck is this vertical? Like, RWBY is an athlete. I mean, actually, RWBY is athletic. I take it back. Never mind. As it seems like the Grimm is about to swallow her, seemingly like Neo with sorry. I'm not making that joke. She manages to disappear and appear behind the Grimm. She then realizes she has a superpower instead of a semblance, showing that she can teleport. I know I complained about Batman earning his semblance in a goofy way, and I know RWBY also earned it in a pretty easy way, but I'm giving this a pass because 1, the movie has impressed me thus far, and 2, it looks cool than being trapped in a cell when needing to break out. We then transition to Blake, and she notices Green Lantern and Weiss aren't with her anymore. Suddenly, a Grimm attacks her and she gains her superpower, and pause. So looking at the fan and Blake's power in this is shadow manipulation, cool. But how the fuck did she protect herself? There is no shadow here. She is in a place where it shouldn't be many shadows. Unless she goes like near cargo, there are no shadows. How the hell did she manage to protect herself? Take it like a earthbender. If that motherfucker not near earth, there is nothing they can do. This isn't firebending where that shit can just be generated. Even waterbenders need like the power from the moon and shit. She has no shadows near her to protect her. Blake should have been in a front row seat talking to Summer Rose, and it's just like, bro, like, I don't know. And despite my nitpicking, this is fine, I guess. It's just lame. Like, I don't know, her power just feels lame, I guess. I don't know, man. Green Lantern pulls up and we see Blake be sorry one more time in the same fucking scene, getting saved by Green Lantern. Bitch didn't even try to dodge. She just sat there and chose to look ugly. After being saved, Jessica and Blake rush to Grimm and it cuts back to the city showing Flash hitting a 40-yard dash. Flash is having a mental battle with Kilgore, whispering sweet nothings into his ear. Next, we go back to Wonder Woman, Yang, and Vixen. They're all fighting Grimm, and besides Grimm somehow matching their strength, Yang manages to unlock her superpower. Her power is just her gauntlets. It's literally just beams that shoot from her hands. That's it. Also, shout out Twitter for ruining this moment for me. It just... I hate them. But besides that, this is what I mean when I say Grimm deaths are nice. This just looks cool. It looks nice. Randomly, some lightning appears and you would think it'd be low tier god with his covenant, but nope, it's just Weather Wizard and Mirror Master. Back at Weiss, besides looking beautiful, I honestly don't like her weapon choice. I understand why they gave her Mr. Freeze's weapon, I just don't like it with her. I feel like the weapons have to match their fighting style. It's why I don't like Yang using a flamethrower. It doesn't fit the girl that's known to be all punching and boxing. Weiss uses a rapier, but they have her using the ice blaster. Like I said, I understand why, but I'd much rather keep their weapons similar. Besides my nitpick, Weiss has a talk with Batman relating it to her family life. I think the conversation is fine. I guess I just don't enjoy Weiss speaking about her family like she's moving away or abandoning them. Remember, her entire kingdom is gone. Whether she likes the Schnee name or not, I'm sure she had friends, family, workers, etc. die or lose their jobs and homes. This is your hometown. I'm sure you would feel a tinge of care regardless of your fucking feelings. I live in Chicago, Illinois. I hate this fucking place because I just don't want to step outside and be murked. It's just, I'm gonna be another fucking statistic. I'm sorry. However, if Chicago was to be wiped off the earth, like nuked or some shit, I'm gonna feel some type of way. The memories, the places I used to visit, I just think it's a weird, man. I don't know. I just find it weird that Weiss is just like, my family is with Ruby, this is where I belong. It's like, bro, like what the fuck? I don't know. It's just strange. Also, Weiss finds out she has no powers. Also, I love her expressions here. We transition to Blake and we see her doing the thing she's always used to doing, running. After that, we see her get saved again. Blake traps the Grimm and Jessica shoves a missile in its throat, and GG. Or so we thought. Also, this expression would work if Blake wasn't fucking ugly. Also, Cyborg saves the day. Sort of. Then Blake saves Cyborg, and then they realize Kilgore's consciousness is stored elsewhere, causing Blake to wonder who it would be. Jessica and Cyborg try to see what they could do, and Blake is forced to distract. Next, we see Weiss, and let's just talk about the IQ here. Why did she think some fucking boxes would kill this Grimm? Not to be that guy, but them boxes gotta have like fucking Mjolnir in them. Actually, hold on, Nora is inspired by fucking Thor. Nora smacked that hoe and it didn't die. It only died due to falling into the void and not due to her actually smacking the shit. So like, what the fuck? Like, why do you think with some boxes we're gonna kill this? Like, what the hell? Also, Weiss has never met Tyrian. How is she having a flashback? I don't know what was happening here. But Weiss manages a good highlight level play and gets the stinger, successfully having something to help Batman. We then go to Cyborg to see if he's good after the Grimm is defeated. Then we go back to Superman as he warns them that a Grimm has kryptonite. Currently, Superman clutching his chest like Goku catching AIDS. Now he's relying on Ruby Rose to handle the fight. A lot of people may complain, but I gotta say this is an excellent way of not having Superman just body everything. Realistically, he could handle every Grimm with ease. I think making a Grimm stop him so he could rely on others is effective. It's not even done in a bad way due to Kilgore knowing Superman, not to mention collaborating with a Ruby character in the back. We then go to see Yang and them, then back to Flash because bro is pressing Grimm to look for Kilgore. We then go back to Ruby and Superman, and Ruby looks pretty cool with this teleport, not gonna lie. Then they get saved by Jessica. This fight has some pretty cool team attacks and camera movement. To make this video go a bit faster, Yang, Wonder Woman, Vixen, and Black Canary pull up for the smoke and they all begin jumping the Grimm. Flash also comes by and manages to be a bit more of a liability than anything, having to be saved by RWBY. But being saved leaves the Grimm open for a counter and they successfully break the piece of kryptonite. Now it's go time. They proceed to jump the Grimm like it owes its money, and then RWBY hits another highlight play, decapitating another Grimm and adding to her collection. It transitions to everyone talking about who could be behind all this. They mention Salem, Tyrian, some bozo. They also figure out it could be someone dead or alive, and Cyborg shows the group the footage he got from plugging into the Grimm earlier. Blake decides to put those white thing skills to the test and realizes it's a hidden message. It transitioned to show Kilgore arguing with Brody before finally revealing that the character in question is Roman Torchwick. Nah, I'm kidding, it's Arthur Watts. A lot of people hate this, but I think it's a bold move that was done pretty nicely. Sure, does anyone really care about Arthur Watts? No. I'd much rather see Neo, Cinder, Salem, and Roman. However, if you're doing something with technology, I don't think it's bad. It's risky, it's dangerous. But for people to just jump out the woodworks and say it's bad because it's Arthur, don't realize the big picture. If LeBron James scored 101 points and manages to break Wilt's record, I may not like LeBron, but I gotta give it props. You may not like Arthur Watts, but you can't say he doesn't fit the role for this movie. It will make less sense to get the popular characters when you think about it. Cinder shouldn't know how technology works. Emerald is a good guy. Mercury is a fuck no. Hazel is a good guy. Adam is actually pretty fair, but not amazing. I doubt they would want to bring Adam back. Tyrian is far too weird. Roman would have actually just better plans in my opinion. Neo may actually work because she adapts on the fly, but she has no reason to because Volume 9. Salem works unless you consider her a boomer, but Salem doesn't even have a reason to fight them, especially now. Ironwood is twisted, but we can just chalk that up to a semblance in writing. So the only person who would and could do it is Watts. Like I said, I don't care for Watts. He's not interesting in my opinion, but he fucking fits the movie. Also, Weiss blaming Watts on her home being destroyed is reckless. He played a part, but those shots were called by James. He gave a hacker his password and expected him to be nice. You practically gave Jason a machete and said, "Please don't kill me." It's stupid. Anyways, RWBY argues with Yang about continuing to fight, but Yang wants to rest. Superman interjects saying that reserve members of the Justice League will take over while they rest, and RWBY storms off. It transitions to Yang and she has a talk with Flash because he's overworking himself. She speaks about progression and how your mental state affects others around you. Flash retorts and says if she told her sister that she's worried. Flash then talks about Kilgore, and this scene is actually really touching. Some people say it doesn't feel like Flash, and in all honesty, I don't know. I don't watch DC that much, but it's a good scene nonetheless. We transition to RWBY fighting and Superman catches her before joining. After training, Superman decides to speak to RWBY. RWBY reluctantly opens up and she speaks about her mom. She talks about how she doesn't remember her mom, but all she has is stories of how amazing she is, and she has to carry that burden to be just as great, if not better. She says heroes fall and how she just wants to get everything done before she falls too. Superman speaks about his biological parents and how they died. He speaks about how he doesn't dwell on it, but he wants to make his parents proud without joining them too soon. The parallels between characters are nice. It's a good dynamic, and the fact that we get such a powerful scene in such a simple little sentences is everything. I feel like this is good just for both of the characters, but this scene is actually one of the best in the movie because of this. It's simple, nice, heartfelt, and that's all you really want. We then move to Weiss and Batman. She's treating his poison before he asks how she felt about Gotham. Weiss says she's understood why he is who he is, and Batman tells Weiss about his life before the antidote finishes. Afterwards, he takes the antidote, but that shit doesn't work and only causes him to be in more pain. We then go back to Cyborg and Vixen. He's working hard before Kilgore hits the good old Rocket League and changes teams. He informs them of Arthur Watts, and after a few scenes, everyone speaks about if he's trustworthy or not. Batman comes into the room and informs them that the antidote actually worked. They begin to speak more about Kilgore, and once RWBY gets excited, Yang speaks out, stopping her. RWBY says she's tired of Yang doubting her, and Yang says she isn't doubting RWBY before needing to calm down. Yang tells RWBY how she really feels, and she actually shows a part of her former self. They hug and look. We get an actual sibling moment. It's been too long, man, too long. It's sad that this is written by someone who isn't a writer of Rooster Teeth, because why don't we have this in the regular show? But besides that, this is really good. They then decide to take the battle to Watts and Kilgore. After pulling up 20 deep to talk to Kilgore, they meet Watts, realizing that he isn't just a conscious and he's an actual person. Killer Croc, Weather Wizard, and Master Mirror sneak Kilgore, then they activate a smoke screen. Watts apparently doesn't have anything that can help him see through smoke, so he follows a red light, getting teleported into the city before getting hit with a crazy left hook from Ruby. Also, when he went through the portal, their clothes changed and they got their semblances back. Superman calls ISO on Kilgore, but bro pulls out kryptonite. The Justice League go and jump Kilgore while Team RWBY fights Watts. The choreography here is pretty decent. Like I said, this feels like an upgrade from the last movie. I can't really explain how, it just feels and looks better. More thought out, more smoother, more concise. I don't know, it just feels better. Oh yeah. Yang also is about to get overwhelmed and activates her semblance, and let's pause for another critique really quickly. I don't like this. Not the scene itself. Yang's use of her semblance. Her semblance is if she takes damage, she gets a power increase and she can deal double the damage back. Yang didn't get damaged, nor did it seem like she was in any harm. Rooster Teeth and even this movie have a issue with that. Sure, her semblance has depicted her rage multiple times. It's why she gets her red eyes. But we should never see her hair glowing and using her semblance fully if she doesn't take any damage. Sure, it looks cool. It's the big rage moment. But realistically, it doesn't make sense. Her semblance is the biggest trump card known to man. It's the biggest middle finger if she lands it. But instead, Rooster Teeth uses it when she's barely damaged and uses it for these get off me moments. It just doesn't make sense. I don't understand it. Instead of having her be like, raw, get off me, and pushes everybody back, why not save it for a final attack? That's how Monty used it. Look at all the times Monty's used a Yang semblance. I don't know, for me, I just don't like it for this big explosion get off me moment. It's supposed to be the final punch, it's like the spirit bomb. This is supposed to be the thing that finishes somebody off for good, the last resort, and you always use it when you're just surrounded. I don't like it. It just feels kind of lazy. Anyways, Watts realizes Cyborg has him in a trap and Kilgore decides to take over. They then send everyone to various places. RWBY tries to figure out something, but a controlled Wonder Woman tries to smoke RWBY, but she gets out of the way. A stage change happens and they jump Superman with kryptonite before Batman helps. We then get a Yang versus Wonder Woman one-on-one. Despite how ridiculous this sounds, Yang may actually be able to beat Tifa with how she's matching her. RWBY tries to sneak but does a move with a crazy amount of build-up, gets stopped and hit with the most delectable three-piece. You know, I was gonna complain how she is ready to clock out after 3 hits, but also this is Wonder Woman, so I'll let it slide, I guess. RWBY then gets sent to Yang and we get another sisterly moment, really adding to the depth of this bond that was forgotten throughout time. RWBY sends a stray at Raven and brings a call back to her talk with Superman before they all agree to jump Wonder Woman. This doesn't turn out well because Kilgore calls for Watts and we end up at Wayne Industries. Yang says some weird shit and Blake manages to find out that's not Yang off a speech alone. I would complain, however, we just got a shit ton of sisterly moments. This ain't harming the ecosystem. Bumbleby wins here. It's good here. It's also why I haven't complained about it. It hasn't been shoved in our face. It's been subtle and nice. So now Yang is fighting a 1v5. Something cool to note, this fucking sequence. Anyways, Flash offers himself to Kilgore, aka Yang, and they begin talking. This is when Flash brings back the combo he had with Yang. He calls ISO, gets some assist, and manages to give Yang CTE while giving himself Kilgore. Superman comes in and swoops up Flash, and Cyborg is also struggling with programming and fighting Watts. Cyborg begins tweaking like the perks got a hold of him, but snaps out of it, and I don't like how they did this break off. It felt too fast. Besides that, he reveals that dust helps them overall, and that's how we also find out that Batman got healed. It was because of dust. Now Cyborg also tells us his plan. We go back to Flash and he tells Superman to let him go. He does, and then Green Lantern traps him, but she also gets possessed by Kilgore. All of this, and Watts is just watching from the alleyway. But Jessica calls a scene change, going to Atlas and making Weiss pull up some mid-VA performances. I don't know why she I actually don't know why she did this bad with voice acting, I'm not gonna lie. Usually I try to back like a lot of the stuff she does up, but like it just wasn't the greatest here. I'm sorry, man. It just wasn't. Justice League begins to piece up Jessica. Cyborg gets dust from Weiss to help with the code. And finally, Watts gets caught trying to get away. He summons some Grimm to fight for him while giving a speech. Also, yeah, Brody didn't throw a punch here. Sure, he's shooting his guns, but this just looks like rhythm for attacks more than actual attacks. Anyways, his speech is about how he's smarter than everyone before Kilgore realizes that Watts is a op. Kilgore takes over Watts' body, they argue for a bit, and Cyborg leaves them in their own world forever, successfully ending the movie. Oh wait, we gotta talk about the final picture. So you see this totally normal picture. Wanna know what fans focused on more? The kiss from Bumbleby. Oh yeah, you know the entire family thing Weiss was going through in this entire movie? Yeah, people focused on RWBY being in her friends list. I'm just saying this to say the RWBY community focuses on the wrong shit and it ruined this scene. This picture is perfectly fine, it's just a need to overhype shipping than the actual plot. Anyways, Lex causes some problems, so the Justice League has to get ready to fight, and Team RWBY is sent home. This ends the movie, and now it's time to compare. I don't think I have to say this, but these designs are fucking way better. I described this earlier, so I won't say much here, but it's a clear difference that this movie did it better. From the color naming rule to the actual outfits to looking more mature while keeping a Team RWBY vibe, it was good. I like it. In terms of emotion, the only thing that carried part 1 was John, Jessica, and Pyrrha. I have no idea why they didn't get John for this movie, but it wasn't needed with how well-rounded they made the actions. They gave every RWBY character someone to compare to while also bringing their own stories into play. Everyone besides Blake. This movie was really good in terms of emotion. There were many times I felt very invested because of how deep it felt. Choreography is another thing. This shit was leagues better than part 1. Maybe it was sound design, maybe it was motion and fluidity, I have no clue. But it was better. I was actually entertained when watching the fights. Part 1 was boring, part 2 felt good. Sure, I didn't jump out of my seat and think this is amazing, it didn't make me that hype, but it made me like it enough to where I was intrigued and wanted more. In my opinion, this is the quality we should always get for RWBY currently. This level of fighting should be the standard. Anything else that's really cinematic or Monty-like should be a tier above. Another big thing is pacing. This movie felt slow and methodical, it felt packed with a decent chunk of information. Part 1 felt rushed, forced, and sloppy. A lot of moments in part 1 were things that didn't make too much sense or didn't have any interest. Part 2 felt way better and actually delivered. Anyways, let's move on to character interactions really quickly. RWBY and Superman were good as always. I said this scattered throughout the video. They didn't have any flaws in my opinion. I liked how they talked, interacted, and even cared for each other. Everything also came back around in the end. It was a really solid relationship and I liked everything we got. Batman and Weiss were good. Sure, the last movie leaves a bad taste in your mouth due to the shipping, but this movie didn't feel like that. Sure, Weiss still goes above and beyond for people, just on straight tip, but that's become more part of her character. I didn't get any weird vibe from them. I liked them talking about their family. I liked how they handled Batman's responses while also handling some of Weiss's. Overall, they did really fucking good, and this is a massive improvement. They weren't the best thing in this movie in my opinion, but it's such a good improvement that you have to respect it. Yang and Flash were nice. The scene isn't really memorable for me, but it isn't a scene that is bad. At the end of the day, they both got controlled, they both had to talk about their problems, and those problems came to light while being solved. Overall, it was good. RWBY and Yang were a breath of fresh air. It felt good to have Yang be a protective sister again. Most of the time in the recent volume, she feels more of a nuisance than anything. Does this feel more like backtracking to fix a mistake? Yeah, but is it fucking good to see? Yeah. Most fans think of Yang as a good sister. She isn't the best one, but she's a good one. Now fans think of her as a terrible sister, someone who can't see her problems and will ignore RWBY to see Blake. Speaking of, let's move on to Bumbleby. Bumbleby was good. I know it sounds wild for me to say, but Bumbleby was good. It wasn't shoved in your face, it was subtle. Is Blake still there with Yang in a lot of scenes? Yeah. But it doesn't feel cringy, it doesn't come off as forced, and it doesn't take away from the characters. I mean, Blake didn't really have one. But Yang didn't have anything bad removed. Yang felt more mature and more responsible. She still felt fun and she still complained a lot, but overall this didn't damage the viewing experience for me. It didn't make it better because I don't care, but I can definitely see why fans would like it in this movie. Overall, good shit Bumbleby. Watts and Kilgore were fine, I guess. Watts disrespecting Kilgore is fine. He's been the punching bag for both movies. I also think Watts acted like himself. I can't speak too much on Kilgore because I'm not too knowledgeable of DC, so sorry. But this partnership felt decent. It didn't stand out, it didn't blow me away, but it was needed for the film and I can respect that. Anyways, let's move on to the other characters really quickly. Every other character doesn't really deserve a whole section, but they can be talked about quickly. Jessica was good, she still did what she needed to do. Sure, she didn't have as much as an impact as the previous movie, but she didn't need to. Cyborg was good and thank God we got no shipping with him. Cyborg played a big role in this movie, so he already was much more useful. He also seemed a bit better in every category. Vixen was good to see, although her best moments come from fighting. Black Canary follows that category as well, especially Killer Croc, Weather Wizard, and Mirror Master. Oh yeah, last person we should mention is Wonder Woman. If it wasn't for her being possessed, I wouldn't have cared. She wasn't too memorable during this. It honestly felt like they didn't know what to do with her besides combat. She had the whole storyline thing with Blake in the previous movie, and I'm glad they didn't continue that in particular, but instead they gave her nothing, so I don't know. Anyways, the overall feel of this movie is, it's good. It's good in RWBY and regular standards. I think most people were too harsh on this one due to the first one. I also think most people didn't compare the first to the second too much. I think this movie was way more well-rounded. The biggest takeaway with this movie, if it's written this well, especially for RWBY characters by someone who isn't a writer for Rooster Teeth, it begs the question if the writers can write like this themselves while also improving on it. The writers technically know what to do now due to the fans liking it, but can the writers actually do it and execute it is another question. They may have directed and reviewed this movie, but actually writing and executing it is a difference. Anyways, I love you guys. I'll see you guys in the next video, and yeah, peace.